You're nobody till somebody loves you. You're nobody till somebody
So what's up, my fellow
cares.
humans? Welcome to day 5 of my last 28. This is the video series I'm doing leading up to my 50th birthday. So let's just get on with it. So today is today's video is on a very big subject. Something that I feel I may have some good insight into, something I feel that I may need to continue to work at. But today's subject is marriage. So let's just start. So what is marriage? So there's the obvious answer. It's when two people that love each other decide that they want to commit to each other for what is the ideal for life. You're one person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life. I've had two. I'm on my second one, and let me just say that this is my last one. There will be not another. There'll be no more. This is it, and that's by choice. I'll get into that a little bit more later. So, but what is marriage? So, as I said, if we refer back to day one video on love, love leads to marriage traditionally. You go through the same process. You have courtship. Whatever that means nowadays. You've got sometimes a lengthy relationship. Then you get engaged, and then you plan your marriage, and you spend that day in front of your friends, your family. You say vows to each other. You promise each other certain things. You place a ring on the finger. And then you throw a party that costs you $20,000 to $30,000. That's typical marriage nowadays. But truly, it's much more than that. So that leads to the next question. So why do we get married? Back in years and years ago, marriage was more of a financial arrangement. You had a man who had daughters. He would marry those daughters off for sometimes wealth, sometimes to be included in that family, trying to get into that family, to basically procreate his last name, or the individual's last name that his daughter was marrying into. The sons would take wives to build the family. Families worked farms, families worked together, families lived together. And so marriage was actually a social arrangement, a social contract. That's why they call it a contract, to allow for the betterment of the family as a whole. And when we lived in small groups and small towns, that's how the town became strong, because the Smiths would marry the Joneses, and they would sort of that wealth would sort of be combined together with those children. And then you have more in the world, which still goes on in the world today, but not as much. But you had arranged marriages. So you had a family that arranged their child to marry the child of another family, and that was also for wealth and prosperity. And then you had things what's called a dowry. So when the father or the family of the bride would give things to the family of the groom, to say, or to show that they had wealth, that they could give the receiving family of the daughter. And I've heard some people say that people that have been in arranged marriages say that they work great. I've had some people say there's no way in the world they do that. So I don't know, your idea, good or bad. I really don't have an opinion on it. If it's part of your culture, it's probably something you're used to. So nowadays, those things don't apply as much. So why do we get married? Is it just a social construct? Is it the expectation of what is the natural progression of a relationship? There's plenty of people that don't get married and live very long lives together and have children together and have property together, but they are never married. So that is it that Hallmark fairy tale again? Is it that thing that we think we need to do, we're supposed to do? I don't know. That's a very good question. I really don't know why people get married. I know why I get married, but once again, I'll explain that later on. So that leads to the next question, which is, so why do marriages succeed? So we'll go with the succeed first. I've got a very close friend of mine. Him and his wife have been married for over 25 years. She was actually 17 when they got permission to get married, and they've had a long, successful marriage. To this day, it is still a long, successful marriage, and those are marriages, at least in my age range, that you don't hear about. They are out there, and they exist, but it's easy to let that go. So why do they succeed? It comes straight down to, and there's no other answer for it, that people work at them. They work at them. It is something they decide that they are going to make sure that maintains. If it's for personal pride, if it's because they really do love that person, if it's for family pressure, if it's for societal pressure, they're going to work at it. It's part of what they think in their head that should be part of their life, and they will give everything for it. That's why a marriage succeeds. There's no other answer for it. And I really believe that. I don't think that is in any way, shape, or form not the answer. So if we asked why they succeeded, then we also have to ask the question, so why do they fail? And this is the big thing about marriages. Why do they fail? The stats tell us that 50% or more marriages fail. So once again, why would you go spend all that money? Why would you spend all that time and all that energy to get married to only have it fail? And sometimes they fail rapidly. Sometimes they take a very long time to fail. And there's a multitude of reasons for it. But I've done a lot of soul searching because I've been in that scenario. And so let me ask this question. If you had a pet, or you have a pet, and you take care of that pet on a daily basis, that pet can't feed itself. Even if you have a self-feeder for your pet, you eventually have to fill that up. That pet can't take care of itself. But you take care of it every day. So why would you not do that for your relationship? Why would you spend the time and energy to get married, build a life together, and then not spend the time and energy to maintain that relationship? So, well, that's the number one reason they fail, because you don't work at it. But I also feel that there's other reasons. One to me, and one of the top reasons, and if you really listen to people that say that they got divorced and their marriage didn't work out, and you listen to what they say, listen how they say it, and get the hurt out of it, and listen to what happened. And I'm really a true believer that one of the people in the relationship had stopped feeling important, needed, and wanted. And they were no longer important to the other person in that relationship. And maybe that other person finds them important, but the reasons for that importance has changed. It's not the honeymoon period. It's not that they don't feel as if they're important. So they start to have resentment. They start to be hurt. They start to back away. They may start to look for other avenues to feel important. And it could be anything. And it's not just someone else. It could be burying themselves in work. It could be drugs or alcohol. It could be a hobby. It could be a sport. It could be watching TV, watching movies, just zoning out and vegging out and just not participating. And if you really broke it down, you're going to find that that person just doesn't feel part of that relationship anymore. And then that just starts to unwind and unravel. And it leads to the next step, that people are so willing to give it all up. But yet why? You've taken that effort to find that person that you want to be with. You've taken that effort, and you had a reason you married that person. And was it that love was blind? Was it that you wanted a fairy tale, so you made the fairy tale? Was it that you thought this person was someone else and you just didn't pay attention? Was it that that person tricked you and made you think they were somebody else, and come to find out they weren't that person? But there's obvious reasons to give up. If there's an abusive relationship, by all means. If it's a controlling relationship, yeah, maybe the marriage should be over. But if it's a typical relationship where both parties are willingly there, and so why would you be willing to just walk away and not try and not work at keeping that? If you found it important enough to get married, and you went through the traditional, not the I met somebody at a bar 2 days ago, we got married in Vegas, and now I don't know what to do kind of crazy stuff. I'm talking like a traditional dating period, and it grows into this relationship, and you decide you want to do this. Why would you walk away? Why would you give that up? I've done it. I can't answer. I can't answer. I'm not going to in this video, but I've done it. So leading from that, I had come up with a really radical idea, and people sort of tilt their head and look at me and say, well, what? And I came up with this theory that at some point in time, early on in your life, you should have to have a practice marriage. They should pick somebody that's the most incompatible person with you and make you be married to that person for a 3-year term. And at the end of those 3 years, you get to decide, you both as a couple get to decide, does this marriage continue or does it go away? If it goes away, it never existed. It's wiped away. You were never married. And you would say, well, why would you do something as silly as that? Well, I will tell you from experience from my first marriage, is that I learned what I would accept and wouldn't accept in a relationship. And you don't learn that without some honesty about yourself and just experience. You just don't learn that any other way. So if you are honest with yourself and you've been in a relationship and you're in a marriage, you are learning in that time what you will and won't accept. You can live with somebody for 5 years and you'll find new things about them, but there's a reason for that. And this also leads me to another thing that I unfortunately learned, which is a marriage should be strong enough to allow each individual person to grow and change, and yet the marriage survive. You are not the same person 10 years from the day you get married. You're not. Life has changed you. You have different experiences. Maybe you're a father now or a mother now. Maybe there's been, death in your family, job change, everything else. You're not that same person. Your opinions on the world have changed. And that marriage has to be strong enough to allow you to change and then stay in the marriage and survive the marriage. And that's where people get it wrong. That's where people that get, you changed. Well, they didn't. They're going to change. People are going to change in a relationship, and you have to recognize that. The other part of it is that a marriage has needs. The marriage itself is an entity. It has needs, but each individual has needs also. So I use the example that there is a golf outing that the husband has been told about, and he wants to go, and he comes to the wife and he says, honey, there's a golf outing on the weekend of May 15th. And she says, oh, wait a minute, my sister's getting married on that day. Well, the needs of the marriage just outweighed the individual needs, and that person says, oh, you're right, sorry, I'm going with you to this marriage, it's a family thing, fine, sorry guys, can't go. Flip that around. He gets invited to a golf outing on May 15th, and he comes and says, hey, golf outing May 15th, looks at the calendar, nothing's going on. As long as the lights aren't going to get turned off, there's not going to be anybody hungry, he can go. And that's the needs of the individual. But the needs of the individual outweigh the needs of the marriage, because there still needs to be a person and an individual. The marriage outweighs on those things, and that individual needs to understand that marriage outweighs. That's important to maintain the health of that marriage. And I think that's something people don't realize. On a personal note, I like being married. I love being married to my wife. She out of some, 4 years ago, there was things that happened, and she came back and she showed me what unbelievable love was, and she allowed me to fix our marriage, and I've never been happier. I love being married to my wife. I want to be married to my wife. I don't feel I need to be or have to be. I want to be, and I want to make it work. And it's just life experience that has taught me that we are people that we need those relationships. That's why they're important. We need that relationship. We need to feel that somebody else is in our corner. They're on our side. That's my person, and that person feels the same about me. So I think I'll end it there. There's plenty in there that I'm sure somebody wants to make mentions about. So I'd love to know your comments. I'd love to know your thoughts on this subject. Please like the video. Please share the video. And until next time, we'll talk soon.